Hey, my friends, how you doing? Um, Welcome to my new video. That's right, it's a video in which I start by saying, please subscribe, please subscribe, please subscribe. I need subscribers. I did the math very informal, fuzzy math, and I think I put about 10,000 hours in all the books that are on this channel. Um, and I'm delighted that people are listening to them and enjoying them. I really, it's a blessing to know that people are enjoying these books as much as they are. I would really like to get paid for these books. I mean, 10,000 hours is a lot of time. Oh my gosh. Do you know how many hours a person works in a year? Let's do the math together, shall we? Let's say 40 hours a week. Let's say 50 weeks a year. So 5 times 4 is 20. You add 2 zeros, and that's 2,000 hours. So it's like 5 years of full-time work have gone into these. I've made about a penny per hour. Yeah, that's about right, actually. About a penny per hour of everything on this website. So I just need help. I'm not uncomfortable with asking for help. I just suck at knowing how to ask for help and asking for help with what. I need you to share these videos. I need you to share my channel. I need you to tell people why that's great. What's moved you? What's interested you? What's got you thinking? What's made you angry? What's made you cry? Whatever. What's made you say, "Oh, swoony," because of kisses? So just please give me a hand. But I wanted to talk just in some minor light detail about a class that I'm going to be teaching at the Kanab Writers Conference. So there's the Kanab Writers Conference in I think September. It might be November. I'm going to turn on my fan. It's warm in here. And they actually asked me to write or to teach a class on how I overcame my year and a half of writer's block. Now this was a deep, very internal process of overcoming my writer's block. My writer's block was in connection with mental health issues, with life circumstances, energy issues, and quite a few other things. But those were kind of the core ones. And it's interesting because I say it was in connection with mental health issues at the same time that I see that during that time I was also healing from some long term mental health issues. And it's probable that, the negative parts of the mental health during this writer's block time was actually a byproduct of the overall healing process I was going through from the crap that I went through growing up and from the way I've poorly handled it most of my life. I feel like a much better person today than I did even 2 years ago. And I feel like there's so much more for me to do. I feel like a much more present person, a much more at peace and stable person. I am grateful for the writer's block, and for most especially, not really for the writer's block, but I'm grateful for the process that the writer's block um, inspired me and sparked me to do, in which I relied on the grace of God 100%, and got to know myself more in relation to Him and who I am to Him and who He is to me. And for all the healing I got to do, and for all the self, awareness that I got to enhance in my own life. So we don't need to be grateful for the bad thing, but if we can be grateful for the process that we go through to get better from the bad thing, that process which is beautiful and makes us more beautiful and feel better about ourselves, I think that's a great thing in life. And this process did that for me. And this process was absolutely part of, me overcoming and dealing with a lot of stuff that I was dealing with growing up. So one of the things that about the writer's block, and writer's block, of course, comes in all kinds of shapes and sizes, myriad sizes, and it's caused by all kinds of things, as unique and varied as is the human race, right? I mean, every writer is going to have writer's block of some kind, and this comes from a guy who said there's no such thing as writer's block back in the day, and I'm going to tell you why, because that is a big part of what started the writer's block issues. So back in the day when I was younger and more bright-eyed or whatever, I was younger. I just didn't know. It's good. It's good. I had to go through that before I could go through this stuff, right? I said there's no such thing as writer's block because I was always so productive. I was nonstop, man. I was working full time. I was helping out at home. I've always been a helper out at home. I have this shirt that says "Dad should be homemakers too" with the guy vacuuming. I made this shirt myself. Strong belief that I have. I was always very busy in my church callings as well. And so I stayed busy, but I was still writing a ton. And even with the time that I should have been writing the whole time, I was watching plenty of Netflix and Hulu and all that other crap, right? Back when Hulu was in its biggest heyday, when it first started. So I was being super productive, and I had low motivation times, but I was still being productive throughout it. Just pushing through. And so I used to be that guy. The reason I was so productive, though, is because I was in the rat race. I was working for the corporate world, different levels of corporate, corporations, whatever, small companies to big companies. But I saw writing as my exit, my way out of the corporate world. I didn't like the corporate world. There was a lot of things about my jobs that I liked, and that most of that was the people. But I also liked the challenge and the ability to be productive and achieve things, and I would get recognized for that achievement because I was always really good at this stuff. The stuff I did in my corporate job, and I'm glad to not have to dive into it anymore. I find it kind of boring right now. I mean, if I talk about Lerner and psychology, I find it very interesting still, but all the other crap I'm not interested in. Although I think I still have the muscles. I think they're atrophied, and I'm down with that. Working on other muscles. So this was my exit. Be successful as a writer. And I was having people tell me my stuff was good. They weren't paying me for it, but they were telling me it was good, right? And I didn't have like official gatekeeper types in the publishing industry say it was good enough for them to help me with, like an agent or an editor at a publishing house or something. That never happened, unfortunately. But maybe fortunately, I don't know the full end of that process still. But there were enough other people saying I was good enough that I was going to make it, that I was motivated enough, or I felt validated enough in what I was doing. I didn't really need that. I really still desire to have people tell me my stuff's good. But I don't need it to keep going. So that's why I was so productive. I needed to get out of the rat race. And my stuff was good enough that it was worth I felt like I was going to get there eventually. The thing that happened, though, is that my wife and I were talking about, how hard it was on me to be in this corporate world stuff, and how it felt like it was shrinking my soul and shriveling me up inside. She said that she thought she should go to graduate school, and I was like, great. And then and I would go in the workplace, she said, and I said, great. And then I would be the stay-at-home parent. That sounds amazing. It sounds dreamy. It's pretty good. So she decided on law school, and I became the stay-at-home parent. The day she started law school, I became the stay-at-home parent while working full time, right? And working from home a lot of the time, but also from the office. And once I changed jobs down here, it was busy. And then I got this calling in my church that got even heavier duty. But my callings for most of the last 16 years, have been fairly substantial and heavy duty. So whatever. I was very busy. I was still writing though, a lot still. Not as much as I'd like to, but a lot. And then my wife got hired and started making more money than I ever did at my peak. And I remember I worked for Amazon in their corporate headquarters. She started making more, and so our bills were being paid nicely. And we were starting to actually see the ability to plan for the future financially for just about the first time in our lives. And I kept writing, but it was slowing down until it was stopped, which is when my writer's block year and a half came. And it took me forever to figure it out. You're probably like, well, it's obvious, Jared, why you had that issue. But it wasn't to me, okay? So it's because my motivation was gone. Because my motivation was not right. I wasn't right with myself. I didn't have inner peace, monkey, whatever. I didn't have that. I was financially motivated. I'd been motivated for a long time because I wanted to make money off my writing. There's nothing wrong with getting paid. In fact, there's everything lovely about getting paid for the work that you do that you're passionate about, art-wise or whatever, right? It's perfect. But that's not why we do it. We do it because we're good at it and we love it, and we love that we're good at it, and we want to keep going, and we want to do a great job at it. And if we can keep going, eventually we could get paid for it. I didn't need to exit the rat race. I was out. My wife released me. She sprung me from the prison of the corporate world. by going in herself. God bless her. Thank you, honey. I needed a better motivation. But it was because I didn't have that motivation and I hadn't really thought deeply enough about why I really was writing, why I really would never stop writing. Even though it hurts so much and is so hard and doesn't pay very well right now. One of these days I'll learn how to sell books, man, I don't know. So yeah, that was why. That was what started it all. And it's my wife's fault because she's amazing. She's amazing. I am grateful for the process. I am so grateful for everything I learned as I came to the realization that my motivation was wrong, which, led me to the thing, the great phrase, know your why. It led me to the process of figuring out my why. So that's the next thing I want to talk about really quick though, because the video's getting long, is how did I figure out my why? Well, I wrote about it. It wasn't writing so much as like for productivity for other people. People are never going to see what I wrote. I went to a conference in Arizona and found myself just in a depression and didn't really attend. I taught my class and then basically didn't attend. I was in my hotel room the whole time. And I missed out on some things, but I was doing some important stuff, so whatever. In any case, I wrote and wrote and wrote until I found my why. And my why is because I love stories. But I cannot stress enough the value of, like my first memoir says, telling your story. There's power in telling your story, not only to claim your story and to gain that power of your story, but also to gain that understanding of your story. Often we don't really understand our story until we've told it to ourselves or told it to others a few times. Really, there's been so much that I've learned as I've told my story over and over again, verbally, written, my podcast, at dinner sometimes with strangers and stuff. I cannot tell you how valuable that, I can't begin to encapsulate how valuable that's been. But having that intentional experience of writing about why I write and what it is about writing that keeps me going or that makes me want to not be able to quit. That was powerful for me. So I'm not going to be grateful for the writer's block because it was bad, but I am eternally grateful for the process that I decided to take, the journey I decided to take because of the bad thing. I think that's a beautiful thing that we can do in life. Please remember, bad things don't have to become good, but bad things can make us good, right? They can make us better if we can reach for grace. And as Rocky says, get up and keep moving forward. Okay? So that's the beginning of kind of the writer's block journey. And I'm not sure what else I'll say in my class, but I'm glad to have articulated that. It's helpful for me as I start to, outline what I want to say that will be of value to people. I actually wrote some maxims about life, and so I'm going to read them to you, okay? I have to look up here because they're on my wall. So the last part of the process, you know what? No, I'm not going to read those maxims. Stay tuned. I'll read those on their own video and give you some context on all of them. Yeah, because this video is getting a little long. But yeah, I have, it's like 13 or 14 maxims for life and writing. It's exciting. Until then, stay tuned. Keep reading your books, keep writing, and keep creating, doing everything you can to make the world a better place. As you do what you're passionate about, you lift yourself. And the wonderful miracle of doing what you're passionate about and lifting yourself is that you then lift others. Sometimes just without even meaning to, but often because you get better at lifting by lifting yourself, so you know how to lift others and are better able to lift others. You're going to make the world a better place as long as you keep creating what you're passionate about and doing what you're passionate about. And that, there's a wide variety of what you can create and be passionate about. And that's another video coming up. Thank you so much for all your support. Please remember to subscribe and please remember to share. Love you guys.